Persevering sometimes means taking huge risks.
The more successful someone is, the more emails like yours they're going to get.
I write down and plot all the tasks and actions that I need to do.
To be productive, you therefore need to be clear on what your goals are. In the world we live in today, there are ever more things fighting for our already limited attention spans. And with this understanding, it's important to take a slightly modified approach to your marketing strategies. And this is important to know because when we're trying to create disruptive messaging or disruptive marketing assets, you have to understand the world that your consumer is living in. The problem we have when we're trying to create marketing is we create it within the walls of our own bubble. So we make a toothpaste that is 10% more minty. And because we've worked hard on that thing, because we know how amazing and shiny it is and how minty that toothpaste is, we just think our job as a marketeer is to tell the world that it exists. And then we do that. We go to social media or we create a campaign telling the world that our thing exists and nobody responds to it. And that's because the marketing and the messaging has been created from a place of self-absorption within your own bubble, and it doesn't appreciate the world that your consumers are living in. Here's a better place to create your marketing from. Imagine your customer that you're trying to reach is broken down on the side of a road. They've just left home. They've just had an argument with their partner. It's raining outside and they've got a flat tire. They've pulled over on the side of the road. They're heading to a job they hate and they're in a bad mood. They pull out their phone because they're going to call the breakdown services and they see your thing in that situation on the side of that road in the middle of the rain without their umbrella. And they see the thing that you've made, talking about your business, the YouTube video, the clip on TikTok, whatever it is, they see your thing. What would you have to say to that person? To Jenny, heartbroken on the side of the road with a flat tire and water in her hair, to get her to care. If you can capture Jenny in that situation on the side of the road, then you will capture everybody else. And the most important thing we see within marketing is that most people make their decision whether to consume something or to watch your message in the first couple of seconds.
So what is perseverance? Well, to me, perseverance is about developing a keep on going attitude while keeping a little bit of flexibility so that you can grow and improve your business and yourself personally. Successful people go that extra mile. Perseverance, sheer determination, and tenacity are really core characteristics of every entrepreneur. But there is a very fine line between perseverance and being obstinate. Persevering sometimes means taking huge risks, which can take you outside of your comfort zone. But you continue at your peril if you fall on the wrong side of that line. Risk must always be highly calculated and never risk it all. Apple computer Steve Jobs made numerous attempts to get Atari and Hewlett-Packard interested in his and Steve Wozniak's personal Apple computer. Now, look what happened there. James Dyson never gave up either. It took him an entire decade of rejection before he got his product out there. And these days, as we all know, he's worth billions. He once said success is made up of 99% failure. I would argue he should have replaced failure with feedback, because success to me is made up of 99% of feedback. Anyway, you've done okay, James, so I'll give you that one. And he went on to say that you galvanize yourself and keep going as a full optimist.
So you've got your idea, you validated it, and now you need to think about how to make it reality. And one of the things that we all need in our businesses is money, is capital. And there are many places that we can get capital. We can self-fund the business, we can take a loan from a bank. There's other routes to finance, but one of the more popular ones, especially when the business is going to require a lot of capital, is to seek investment from an investor, somebody like me. Taking investment is something that you should consider once you've done a significant amount of work to validate the idea, to make sure it's worth pursuing. And once you've clarified that the problem you're solving is a significant one and the way you're solving it is the right way to solve it. Also, once you've gone to market and you've had some sign of product market fit, that is the point when you're ready to take investment. And then you should ask yourself, is this something that I'm able to fund? How long could I fund it for? What are my other options for getting capital into this business? And if there's not other obvious options. If you don't have the capital yourself, there's not someone you can borrow it from, or you're not comfortable with borrowing it from somewhere else, then an investor might be the right path for you.
When a successful entrepreneur thinks of an idea that they believe is going to be a winner, what do? They act. They do something that 99% of the population just doesn't do. They take action. But they don't stumble forward blindly. They make informed decisions to act. It's taking action that will separate you from the rest of the pack.
Being productive, to me, really means being intentional about the use of your time and using your time in line with the goals that you want to achieve. And to do that, to be productive, you therefore need to be clear on what your goals are. So in this lesson, I'm going to talk about how to be more productive, but also a method for setting your goals and seeing them through. One of the things that I've done in my life to ensure that I'm more productive is I've introduced a framework that I call the 3 M's: macro, medium, and micro. So let's say you're trying to start a podcast. Your macro goal is really the long-term vision. That could be to create the biggest, best podcast in the world. And from that, you'll be able to reverse engineer and think through a set of medium goals that will need to be achieved if that macro goal is to be completed. So in your medium goals, you might write down, we need to buy some cameras, we need to find a sponsor, we need to book a studio. And from your medium goals, you'll have a set of actionable micro goals. And these micro goals are things that you should put into your calendar and onto your to-do list. These are things like research potential sponsors, send emails to potential studios, and go out and buy some cameras. Those are your micro goals, and those things should belong on your to-do list or time blocked into your calendar. And having a framework like this is increasingly important when you're starting out in business, because the truth is, and this is an unavoidable reality of starting a business or becoming an entrepreneur, there are so many things that you could and should and need to be doing at the very start that it can be quite overwhelming. And when we get overwhelmed and we feel that psychological discomfort, what the scientists say is we procrastinate. When we feel discomfort in our brains, we try and avoid that discomfort by doing something else. So what this system does is it puts all of those things in your head down on a piece of paper. And most importantly, because of that micro layer, it makes them actionable. You know what you've got to do to achieve them. If you just wrote down on a piece of paper, or you just had in your head, we've got to create the biggest podcast in the world, that is such a complex thing that it will unavoidably lead to discomfort. By breaking it down into medium goals and then even smaller micro actionable goals, you know where you can start. And the starting point is small. Instead of it being create the world's biggest podcast, if you were just aiming at the macro, it is send an email. And that is a strategy to avoid the psychological discomfort we get from having big, challenging, intimidating goals written down on a piece of paper. It helps you make your goals smaller, actionable, and easier to begin.
I've always aimed to get results, and it's really important to me that I know what I'm trying to achieve. So I always write down my goals. Every year since the age of 18, a couple of friends and I, over in a restaurant called Tummy's, we used to sit down every year, write down on a napkin what we wanted to achieve the next year. It started out just with 2 or 3 of us over a dinner, and then as the years have gone on, it ended up being 30 of us over the dinner. And it started out being a bit of fun at the start, saying, I want to have a new car, or I want to earn £25,000 more, or I want to become much fitter than I am. Whatever they were, the following year, we'd come back and we'd say, who's done what? The one person that didn't achieve their goals compared to the others would end up having to pay for the lunch. And you can imagine the shenanigans that went on as we're leading up to it. If I'd achieved my goals, I'd be going, yes, I've done this. I tell you what, you're in for a big bill. Whoever ended up paying that year, sure as hell the next year, they worked doubly as hard, because the last thing they wanted to do was pick up a £500 food bill. So it becomes really competitive. I think what's really important about that, if you think about it, is you're writing your goals down. You clearly have a direction. You know what you want to achieve. But also, something's going to happen if you don't achieve it. So There's a real consequence, and that can actually be sometimes the very factor you need to really drive for even more success. Business is no different to that. You want to achieve something, you need to write down your goals, and then you track exactly how you're doing against them.
The more successful someone is, the more emails like yours they're going to get. So email is a very saturated channel to pursue. One of the tricks I used early on in my business to get the attention of people was I would send gold envelopes in the post. And when they opened those gold envelopes, they were personalized to them. So if they liked Manchester United, I might put a Manchester United keyring in and let them know that I like Manchester United too. The reason for doing that is when I did my first principal analysis, I thought to myself, these very successful people are going to have PAs guarding their inbox. But what I know for sure is most PAs don't open post. And also, when post comes, if we get a gold envelope, that is synonymous with us winning something. And that, for me, was an incredibly successful strategy to get the attention of very successful people. But also, just in doing it in an innovative, thoughtful way, I'm telling that person something about me even before they've opened the letter. I'm telling them that I'm someone that thinks differently, I'm innovative, and therefore maybe I'm someone that's worth paying attention to.
So we know that you've got a great idea and you've researched the type of investment you need and who you're going to be approaching. But how are you going to persuade them to invest in you? You're going to pitch your idea, that's how. When I have to go and do a pitch, I try and get to a place where I relax. And I know that sounds easy, but if I know about my business, then I've got nothing to worry about. And if I've got nothing to worry about, all of a sudden I go to a very relaxed state because I know my business better than anybody, and I start to enjoy talking to people about my business. Every time you talk about your business, you're pitching. It isn't scary if every opportunity you get to talk about your business, you pitch. Even if you're in a lift with somebody, do an elevator pitch. Pitch to friends and family. What do you think about this? Do people get it straight away? It's very, very, very straightforward.